अस्सलाम वालेकुम। कैसे हैं आप लोग? होप सो you are doing well. In previous lecture we discussed some of the aspect of global language, and we talked about English as a global language. In today's lecture we see and discuss English language as a global. It's the part of previous lecture, but in today's lecture we take a look over the word view, the views, a word view over language, English language as a global language. We know that now English is in a present situation is considered as a lingua franca. But what are the basic purpose and what are the basic causes and the factors that cause the result of its present situations? I think, according to different studies that we find and that we learn about it, that English language and the situation and the causes and the factors of English language uh, make make it as or to get it in this present situation, that two core causes, the two core factors that help it a lot, very much that help it very much in order to maintain its standard in its 19th century, even in the 20th century or the 21st century. The first most prominent factor that made English as a global language, the colonial power, British colonial power, which peaked toward the end of the 19th century. It helped English language as the core cause to establish itself in the position to be considered as a global language, or the language of trade and the language of business and the language of communication of all over the world and the major community of the world. And the second most important part that helped him a lot, that was the leading economy power of the United States in the 20th century. Overall 70 and more than 70% of all English mother language speakers of all over the world. The basic concerns after the economic power, after establishing itself as as an economic power of the world, the United States emerged its languages just like English, and they promoted English very well. Even the thousands of dollars they spend over just in order to make it established as a language of trade. We mostly considered that these two are the major factors that make or that made English as a lingua franca, or the English language as a global language. We have a branch cashew reviews that he circled, that he entitled this scenario, or having three different circles, that we are going to take a look over it, of branch circles over over the language boundaries and the expanding circles of the English language. But before moving toward that concept of branch, we know very well the majority of trade and the majority of the business are being held while utilizing the language of English. I mean, it's either the differences of the continent, either we are talking about Asia or Africa, even the Europe and Australia. The most of the part of the world utilized English as a language, as a global language. They left major impact. The people of Britain and the people of American left a major impact over the economy of the world, and they made the people, and they mold the people's mind to utilize, to establish this English language as a language of trade. There we have a circle of Casio, or he divided this circle into three different aspects. First one, just like this, light green and gray, and after that pink, or a shocking pink, just we can say that. And a first trade, the first inner circle of English language uh, just remain itself in USA and UK. And the most of the part of the Britain are surrendered itself while utilizing the English as a language of globe. And the first primary circle that entitled with the establishment of the English language in USA, and or the all the just like all the states of USA and all the states of UK, they considered English language as their language or the language of trade. In a second circle, that when we see that English and the outer side of that circle, just like US and UK, because inner circle, we can also say that inner circle just due to it's the circle of English language as well, because it's emerged, or it's emerged from the basic concept or the basic concerning circle of United States of America or the United Kingdoms, because all the people belonging to the one community and the community of English language, and they promoted their language as they want to. After that, the second circle are considered as a outer or expanding circle, it including Indian continent and even the Singapore. The worth of the peoples became 3,300 to 500 millions peoples, and the most prominent concept, it was laden by the 19th century, just due to the colonial aspect and the colonial involvement of Britain into the continent, in the subcontinent. Or at a third level, we can say that this was just indicates a green circle, or it's an expanding circle over China, Russia, or now it's become the 1,000 millions of peoples that are being utilized the basic concept or English as a lingua franca. But if we see that why English become the language of trade and the language of globe, before moving toward, we have to see the historical context of English language, even the historical aspect of English language. We know very well that at the beginning level, or the when we talk about Middle English or the Old English, or just we haven't more than words to speak, but now we have a bulk of dictionaries, a bulk of thousands of words that are being implemented in our today's society. We know very well that geographical historical aspect, that English came to England in the 5th century and began to spread around the British Islands. It enters into the part of Wales, Cornwall, Cumbria, and southern Scots, or just like Scotland, and Celtic aspect of the language that are being introduced at that time. After the Norman conquest or Norman invasion of 1066, many nobles from England fled north to Scotland, where they were made welcome, and eventually the language in a distinctive Scot variety, or it was spread. It was Uh, after the Norman invasions in 1066, many noble England peoples they got their point into the Scotland, and they tried to imitate English language as their language. Or even the Anglo-Norman knights were sent across to the Irish Sea and Ireland, gradually all under the English rules. Even it was the basic concerns that promote English language as a language of globe. But 300 years later, the progress of English toward the status as a global language took place. The movement of English around the world, American 1584, the first settlement, or 1607 India and the Antipodes, Australia and the New Zealand, James Cook 1770, and the Africa 1820, and the South Pacific 1600, the British East India Company. In India, Thomas Macaulay 1835 proposed the introduction of English education system in Panjim or in Singapore, in Malacca, or the most of the trade and the cultures were being implemented, being promoted in English language. Not to talk about beyond the history of the Indian continent, if we take a look just over the Indian historical aspect, we know very well at the time of the independence of Pakistan or the India, that or before the partition of India or Pakistan, we know very well there isn't any place or a space for a person in social and societal or academical status if he or she did not know about English language. Even Britain, even the Britain colonial peoples, even the Britain rulers implemented English as a compulsory object, as a compulsory subject. The basic concern of that's just they wanted to implement their language into this continent. And we have a lot of references there that implemented that force us to make a mind that this language, the language of English, was being implemented over us, and we nowadays even that learning the whole the words of English language. The most of the folk of this area and the continent, this subcontinent, were translated in English language, or even that the basic concernings, the basic materials, even the primary materials of any language were being derived or were being translated into English language, and they promoted that books, they promoted that their own material, and they hide the material of the origin of the language from where the English translation being got. But now we have the most prominent aspect of English as a language of even that the second feature, the second part that we can consider as the factor, the political development. Word English is due to the growth of the British Empire. The British Empire covers nearly one third of the Earth's surface, and the British subject is nearly one fourth of the population of the world. No doubt, they politically acquired one third part of this earth, or from where they went, they tried to implement their language as well. They tried to implement their rules, and the rules were in their language. So it's very simple to understand. It's very simple to be clear ourselves that why English became the language of trade. Even not even the around the British Empire, the language as a grandeur, the language as a grandeur we have. Gee, sorry for being disturbing you people. We know very well that around the British Empire, the language as a grandeur as well as a symbol of political unity was just English language. At that time, the unity being considered if you know the language as well. English became a new unifying medium of communication within a colony, but at the same time, it reflects the bond between that colony and the home country. Or as at the starting point, I say that it is necessary for a language, or it's necessary for a language to be promoted, to be implemented. If we do not implement the things, we can never get at much demanding task that we want to get. If we implement the things by force, definitely the people are being compelled to follow all the rules and the norms and the customs. Or as we know, British Empire rule over the one third of the universe, or one third of this earth, and they implemented and they bound the people to speak, and they bound the people to learn. So they don't learn their language, the language of the countries and the peoples. and they bound the people from at that or from where they ruled their Britain empire. So, political development played a vital role to establish English as a language or as a language of trade. Or by the beginning of the 19th century, Britain became the world's leading industrial and trading nation. As I informed you, informed you before, that the most concerns of this English language is the concerning of the language of trade, the language of business. The most of the innovations of the industries, revolutions are being discussed in English language. The technical and the most immediate aspect that were being associated with English language, and all were associated with English language, or it was the core cause of the establishment of or establishment of English as a language of. Or innovations make the use of the language as a primary or sole means of expression. The first radio station used English, and no one questions about it. Even the language, native language, was not English. Even that, if we talk about in our own community, in our own continent, before the partition, we were not sure, we were not aware about the English language, but they implemented this language as a token or as a granted to be dominant, or just because they are dominant at us, so their language was also dominant to us, our language. Or some countries use English as an official language to avoid the problem of having to choose between the conflicting local languages. So when the majority of the people considering was were considering that English would become the language of trade, and they surrender themselves to learn English language. Or after that, we have the cultural legacy story, that we have English is one of the official language used in the United Nations. Or United Nations, we have a lot of countries that are being united. English is used in most proceeding of most other major international political gathering. English is used in the media, the press, advertising, broadcasting, cinemas, and popular music, in international travel, even in international safety. The cultural legacy is one and other aspect of promoting English as a language of the globe. Three-quarters of the world's mail is in English. 80% of the world's electronically stored information is currently in English. The first protocols devised to carry data on the net were developed for the English alphabet using character set called Latin 1. Or it's mean the communication and the trade and the business and the educational purpose, all these things are being held in English language. Even as I recently told you, that English is the medium of great deal of the world's knowledge. Or 1980 study of the use of English. 85% of papers in scientific periodicals were written in English. In 1995, early 90% of the 1500 papers listed in the journal Linguistic Abstract were in English. It's mean that all the aspect that we have in English language can be a source of the implementation of English language. Hope so. You got the point. From where the right place at the right time, or it was the right time when the Britain Empire lead the colonial nation, or they just implement their language to the people, and the people became to know about it, and now it's the outcome, it's the result of Britain Empire and United States. United States, just due to the United States empowerment or economic power. So, if you have any question, you can ask. Okay, thank you. Take care.